Eminem is the rapper, Slim Shady will kill you, and Marshall Mathers is the person, like, behind the whole, mask or whatever.
Please welcome rapper, producer, and actor Eminem.
The biggest selling artist of the past decade.
Well, he's a multi-platinum artist and a bit of a troublemaker.
And now Grammy nominations stir controversy for Eminem.
All the fans that made Slim Shady possible,
The Grammy goes to Mr. Controversy, Eminem.
Eminem.
Eminem. Eminem.
And his father, who left him when he was 6 months old.
Never knew him.
Do you want to, or?
The year is 2001, and Eminem is at the top of the rap game. The release of the Slim Shady and Marshall Mathers LP established them as one of the biggest forces to be reckoned with and turned once an underground rapper from Detroit into a high-profile celebrity. Despite being surrounded by controversy, both of the albums sold millions of copies, and singles like My Name Is, The Real Slim Shady, The Way I Am, and Stan became some of the biggest songs of that decade.
Hi, my name is Chicka Slim Shady.
While both of the albums are considered to be classics, which changed Eminem's life forever, his second studio album, the Slim Shady LP, still stands out more from the rest of his catalog. His unique lyrical style, dark humor, and eccentric personality.
You're pretty. You got 2 minutes for lip, Kathleen.
Pretty. Okay.
Listen, I really usually don't do this. This is the first time for me.
I'm keeping it gangster, homie. I'm keeping it gangster. I'm keeping it real. It's all about keeping it real.
Right, come on, man. Right, yeah. No, wait, I gotta hold it, huh?
Oh my God! I'm a girl!
Captivated the world by storm, with it not only becoming his breakthrough album, but also securing a spot on the list of the greatest albums of all time. Unfortunately for him, all the success also came with a price, and soon his beloved album became a blessing and a curse. While he never had to worry about his lyrical content before fame,
Hi on, would you take trick? What am I on? 2 tubes of airplane glue and a can of Krylon, eating the crayon, setting fire to rayon, flaming the nylons of 2 white lesbians screaming die blonde.
the success of the Slim Shady LP changed that forever and managed to cause a lot of controversy for Eminem for his songs about murdering his ex-wife and convincing his infant daughter to assist him in disposing of his wife's corpse.
I think that song is so horrible. I can't even begin to express it, and I think it's particularly sad now that Kim, the actual person, has tried to commit suicide.
Or talking in explicit details about his tragic upbringing, calling out people by their names on the record, which even led to lawsuits on more than one occasion. The fourth single from his second studio album, called Brain Damage, is a perfect representation of it and caused Eminem a lot of headaches. But to fully understand why it became a $1 million lawsuit, we first have to go back to Marshall's childhood. Marshall Bruce Mathers III was born on October 17, 1972, in St. Joseph, Missouri.
It was just in heaven. I mean, it's like, this is a child, you know, that's going to have everything. He's not going to want for anything. He's going to be so sheltered, so loved, so protected. Going to be the best mother in the world. And I made a promise with God. The alcohol, the drugs, the drinking, the pot, any of that stuff, they would never go through that. I met Bruce, and he was my knight in shining armor. Met him when I was 14.
Debbie comes in from school, she says, Bruce and I are getting married. Tell her, Bruce. Yeah, he says, I love Debbie and Debbie loves me, and we're getting married. And next thing I know, she finally got pregnant. I was pregnant with Ronnie when she got pregnant.
Unfortunately, while in most cases child's birth brings two people closer, this wasn't the case. When Marshall was only a year and a half old, his mother left his father after years of mental and physical abuse, and together with Em, they moved back to St. Joseph.
Marshall Bruce Mathers II was a knife thrower. He threw knives. He used to always like to see how close he could get to your foot without hitting it.
As a teen, the future Eminem was trying to reach out to his father and hopefully rekindle the relationship by sending him a few letters, but all of which his mother claims came back returned to sender. Debbie struggled to keep a job, and they moved frequently between Missouri and Detroit, Michigan, spending large chunks of time in public housing projects before settling in Warren, Michigan. This constant moving left a large impact on his personality.
So you had to change schools every couple months?
Yeah, I would change schools 2-3 times a year, and that was probably the roughest part.
It was the longest I had ever went to a school. It was like 6 months. So I started making friends, and it was real hard for me to make friends when I was little. You know.
How come?
I mean, we changed schools a lot. Like, we would change school. The longest I had been in a school was like 3 months. I ain't had the greatest life in the world, coming from a single-parent home. You know what I mean? Being bounced around from school to school to school to school to school, from state to state, from back and forth to Kansas City to back to Detroit, you know what I mean? Living with my grandmother, you know, my mother never had a job. I hate to say that, you know, but that affected me, you know what I mean? It's like, it took a toll, man.
He had no close friends, kept almost entirely to himself, and was treated like an outcast at each new school. Because he was so small, he was often a victim of bullying, with one of the bullies being a kid named DeAngelo Bailey. He would often beat up Marshall in school bathrooms, hallways, and shove him into lockers. Mother used to beat the shit out of me. I was in 4th grade and he was in 6th. One day, he came in the bathroom, I was pissing, and he beat the shit out of me. Pissed all over myself. But that's not how I really got f***ed up. You see, during recess one winter, the 9-year-old M was going back and forth with a smallish friend of Bailey's. When DeAngelo saw what was going on, he came down running from across the yard and hit him so hard into a snowbank that he completely blacked out. M was sent home, but on his way back, his ear started bleeding and he was taken to the hospital. For the next 5 days, Marshall was in and out of consciousness after suffering a cerebral hemorrhage.
It took a year for Marshall to bounce back. I had to work with him every day, teaching him how to tie his shoes. He had become almost like an infant. With the medications I had him on, the Depakine and Dilatin, low pressor, when I give him the medication, I seen a zombie, and I did not want him zombied out. I didn't believe in it. So the medication was going to go.
After the incident, his mother decided to file a lawsuit against the public school in 1982. She continued to say that Eminem was still suffering from headaches, post-concussion syndrome, intermittent loss of vision and hearing, nightmares, nausea, and a tendency toward antisocial behavior. She would also later state that Marshall's head injury made her even more protective of him. Looking back, it's hard to understand whether her comment about the additional protection was a good or a bad thing, because years later, Eminem would tell the world that his mother had a Munchausen by proxy syndrome, which is a mental illness and a form of child abuse where a caretaker of a child either makes up fake symptoms or causes real symptoms to make it look like the child is sick to get attention. He would even state that the illness got so out of hand that she used to put drugs in his food in order to make him sick. At the time, nobody knew about this, but the lawsuit was still short-lived. The suit was quickly dismissed the following year by a Macomb County, Michigan judge who said that the schools were immune from lawsuits. While Eminem managed to survive a head injury that could have ended tragically, unfortunately, this wasn't the end of the story, and years later, this very same incident will once again return to haunt him. Throughout his youth, Eminem's relationship with his mother, to no surprise, was no good. They would constantly fight about everything, including his mother's addiction to drugs and alcohol, with a social worker describing her as having a very suspicious, almost paranoid personality. As soon as I turned 15, my mother was like, "Get a job and help me with these bills, or your ass is out." Then she would me out anyway, half of the time, right after she took most of my paycheck. By the time I enrolled in Warren's Lincoln High, he had already attended as many as 20 schools. Since he lived in primarily black, lower middle class Detroit neighborhoods, being one of the 3 white households on their block meant that the beatings continued outside of the high school. I was walking home from my boy's house to the Bel Air shopping center. All these black dudes rode in a car, flipping me off. I flipped them off back, they drove away, I didn't think nothing of it. Evidently, they parked the car and one dude came up, hit me in the face, and knocked me down. Then, he pulled out a gun. I ran out of my shoes. I thought that's what they wanted. The next day, I came back to the same place and the shoes were still stuck in the mud. That's how I knew it was racial. With life already being a disaster, the school was no better grades-wise. After failing 9th grade 3 times, he eventually dropped out at the age of 17. Despite being a poor student, Eminem always had a deep affinity for language, devouring comic books and even studying the dictionary. As a teenage dropout, he found a way to express his emotions and passion for language, as well as to release his youthful anger through the emerging musical genre of hip-hop.
My uncle Ronnie had simply brought me over a tape of the Breakin' soundtrack. Do you remember the movie Breakin'? It was a pretty big movie. It was about breakdancing, and what actually happened was he brought me over the tape, and we started listening to it, and he played me a song called Reckless by Ice-T, and then I liked the song, therefore I stole the tape from him and continuously, repeatedly throughout the day, played the tape and liked it so much that I learned the words by heart.
And I figured, like, I just want to rap, So then one of my longtime friends, Deshaun Holtman, he's a rapper too, his name's Proof. He used to take me up in the lunchroom at Osborne, and like the kids would just like bet money and stuff. Like we used to battle. I used to battle like a lot of kids in the school, a lot of other rappers and stuff.
Illa story, we used to do the white man can't jump thing. I used to go in the sneaker, I used to sneak him in the Osborne, and everybody be like, I'll battle you, man, I'll battle. I'll be like, you ain't can't battle me. Why don't you battle him? And they be like, oh, the white boy, I'ma kill him, Then he'll come out, bust a rhyme, I swear. He'll do this rhyme so fast. It's gonna take everybody in the face like.
I used to rap really fast, and I don't think I was really saying much. But I was just rapping really fast, you know. But because I was rapping fast, everybody I used to win every battle, like, you know, because it was this rap, like, blah, 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 and other kids were rhyming slow, so, you know, I figured the faster you rap, the better you was.
On Saturdays, they attended open mic contest at Hip Hop Shop on West 7 Mile Road, which was considered ground zero for the Detroit rap scene.
In this day and age, in this period of time, trying to battle Eminem is worse than David Starr trying to battle Proof, IQ, B, Fat, and Bizarre. That's why you acting differently. You ain't got no style, plus you lack delivery. Not to brag, I don't mean to boast. Look, my face is pale, but you look like you seen a ghost.
As soon as I grabbed the mic, I'd get booed. Once heard me rhyme though, they'd shut up. Little by little, Eminem was slowly but surely gathering buzz around his name in the underground scene, but money was still a major issue. His girlfriend Kim, with whom he had on and off relationship for the past couple of years, had just gotten pregnant with their daughter Haley, and with his mother throwing both of them out at least a couple of times a week, Eminem's only wish was to provide her the kind of childhood he never had. In 1996, trying to fulfill this dream, Eminem released his debut album, called Infinite. While he purposely made Infinite songs radio-friendly in hopes of getting played on Detroit radio stations, the album failed to gather any noise and was a commercial failure.
A few years later, 3-4 years later, I started making a name for myself in Detroit, just at clubs and whatnot, just rapping and, you know, at open mics and freestyling and battles, competitions and things like that. And Mark heard about it. The Bass Brothers, they heard about, you know, what was going on again, and they decided to give it another shot. So we went with it, and we recorded the album Infinite. There was maybe 500 copies of the album pressed up, and we just pressed them up locally to see if we could sell them, and ended up not selling.
The album is nothing like his later works, with it having a more laid-back type of flow, and the subject matter doesn't feature any gruesome crimes, but rather he opens up about the struggles of raising his newborn with limited funds and his strong desire to become financially stable. Detroit DJs and radio folks left Infinite alone, later commenting, "You're a white boy, why the f are you rapping for? Why don't you go to rock and roll?" This type of attitude towards him was starting to really bother Marshall, and it didn't help that the days before Christmas and his daughter's first birthday, Eminem got fired from his cooking job at Gilbert's Lodge. As he recalls in many interviews, "I felt like I reached rock bottom, and his problems with alcohol and substance abuse only got worse, which even resulted in a suicide attempt."
I reached a point when my daughter was born where I didn't give a anymore. I didn't care. I just was like, I was fed up with so much shit. I knew I had a baby on the way that before she was born, and once she was born, I couldn't afford to buy her diapers. I couldn't afford to do anything. I had lost my job. I was working different jobs, temporary service, all kinds of jobs just to try to make ends meet. Didn't have anything, you know, got evicted from the house I was staying at and really reached a point where I just hit rock bottom, so I stopped giving a f.
After living on their own for some time, Eminem, Haley, and Kim were all forced to move back to Debbie's trailer since there were only two options: go sleep in the street or go back to your addict mother. All of the life struggles which were piling up in Em's chest made him come up with an alter ego, calling it Slim Shady. The character allowed him to express his anger with lyrics about drugs, murder, and all sorts of violence.
Eminem is me, sitting right here. And Slim Shady is me sitting right here too. Only Slim Shady is me when I get pissed off, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's kind of like an alter ego type thing.
In the spring of 1997, he recorded his debut and only EP, titled The Slim Shady EP. It was filled with numerous references to drug use, sexual acts, mental instability, and violence, while simultaneously exploring the more serious themes of dealing with poverty, family difficulties, and revealed his direct, self-deprecating response to criticism. The EP once again wasn't anything major at the start, and it seemed like Eminem couldn't catch a break, because not long after the release, he was once again fired from his job and evicted from his home. Soon, he made up his mind to go to Los Angeles and compete in the 1997 Rap Olympics.
I'm about to make this mic short circuit. This beat is whack as f***. This fits you perfect. I got so many ways to diss you that I'm playful with you. I let a razor sit you till they have to staple stitch you. And everybody in this place will miss you if you try to turn my facial stitch you to a racial issue. Nobody's hearing you. You're a whack liar. There, all your white jokes just backfire.
And took second place in a rap competition called the Rap Olympics. And I had gave my tape to this kid named Dean, real young kid at the time. He was like 18. I gave it to him, and I was because I lost the battle. I took second place in the battle, and I really thought I should have took first. So he wanted the tape from me, so I kind of gave him a copy of the Slim Shady EP, thinking, yeah, whatever, you know, take the tape. I don't care who you are. I've been around by so many labels. And then come to find out, 2 months later, 3 months later, while we was out in LA, all of a sudden we get a call from Jimmy Iovine and Dre himself saying, we want to meet with you. We like your tape.
When Dre called our hotel room, I was like, what? You know, I told my producers, don't lie to me. They was like, we got a meeting with some doctor. I don't know, he calls himself Dr. Dre. I'm like, stop it, stop.
The duo didn't waste a single minute.
Now, is it true, man, that you guys recorded My Name Is, was that one, like y'all first kind of studio session together?
That was the first 10 minutes.
Good Lord have mercy.
Yeah, you know, I had this sample ready because I thought it was something that he would sound good on. I pushed the sample, I pushed the play on the drum machine, and he just immediately started with the hi, my name is, that whole thing, and bam, that was it. And we recorded 4 songs that first night, and 3 of them went on his first album.
Fast forward to 2001, and despite being in the game for only a couple of years, Eminem had already established himself as one of the hottest artists of the decade. People were dying to buy his new album and hear him be completely raw, and without a filter whatsoever.
Ladies, can I sing a song for you, ladies?
Unfortunately, while his debut album brought new colors into his life, it also caused a lot of problems with the law. By 2001, Eminem was already no stranger to lawsuits. He was already sued by his mother back in 1999 for $10 million due to his lyrics about her on the Slim Shady LP, sued by his ex-wife Kim, who accused Eminem of defamation after describing her violent death in the song Kim from his second studio album, and to everyone's surprise, he was also sued for $1 million by his childhood bully, DeAngelo Bailey.
I feel like if you want to sue me at this point, just take a number because there's a lot of people in line.
He heard Brain Damage on the radio and was more than surprised to hear his own name. You see, the song finds Eminem rapping about his childhood experience of being bullied by a boy named DeAngelo Bailey, recounting an incident of being severely beaten by him with comic exaggeration. I was harassed daily by this fat kid named DeAngelo Bailey, an 8th grader who acted obnoxious cause his father boxes, so every day he'd shove me into lockers. One day, he came in the bathroom while I was pissing and had me in the position and beat me into submission. He banged my head against the urinal till he broke my nose, soaked my clothes in blood, grabbed me and choked my throat. He continues the song by beating Bailey with a broomstick and standing over him with his foot on his chest. He later gets home, loses his sight, and his left ear starts to bleed. His mother sees him and in anger, further injures him by beating him in the head with a remote control until his brain falls out. While the song was portrayed in a comedic way, it still recalled a lot of truthful and real stories. Bailey, who worked as a janitor, saw a perfect opportunity to make some extra cash, and in the suit claimed that Eminem is a Caucasian male who faced criticism within the music industry, that he had not suffered through difficult circumstances growing up, and was therefore a pretender in the industry. Eminem used Bailey, his African-American childhood schoolmate, as a pawn in his effort to stem the tide of criticism. He would also claim that the song damaged his reputation, invaded his privacy by publicizing unreasonable information which put him in a false light, and halted his own rap career. During the court, Eminem admitted that he exaggerated some of the parts of the song. For example, in one part he says that Bailey was an 8th grader when he beat up Eminem, while in reality, he was in 6th. He also rapped that the principal walked in while he was getting beat up and helped Bailey to stomp him, which he also admitted to being a lie, and he explained that he used it just to create more drama and fit the rhyme scheme. The whole lawsuit was destined to be doomed from the beginning. Bailey tried to get a money grab from Eminem, but there was just too much evidence linking that the situation was both indeed real and at the same time exaggerated, used in an artistic form. First, while the lawsuit against the high school was dismissed, there were still documents from 1982 where Debbie Matters sued the school for the same bullying incident that Eminem talked about in the song. The publicized documents showed everything in great detail, meaning that this wasn't something made up by Eminem, and he only shared details that were already known to the public. Second came the Rolling Stone interview from April 1999, in which DeAngelo Bailey himself admitted to bullying Eminem at school by saying, "There was a bunch of us that used to mess with him, you know, bully type things. Yeah, we flipped him on his head at recess. When we didn't see him moving, we took off running. We lied and said he slipped on the ice. He was a wild kid, but back then we thought it was stupid." The interview clearly shows that Eminem didn't share any more details that Bailey would have wanted or created false narratives around his name, since he publicly took responsibility for bullying and seemingly even bragged about it. The only case where Bailey might have had a shot, if proven, would have been him claiming to receive death threats or that his career got damaged after Eminem publicly name-dropped him, but to his loss, there was no career to begin with. In the end, everybody in the courtroom, including the judge, saw the lawsuit for what it was, a blatant cash grab and not an issue of harassment. In October 2003, Judge Deborah Servito dismissed the case and delivered a verdict in a very extraordinary way that later even made headlines. The judge read the verdict in a rap-like rhyming verse. Mr. Bailey complains that his rap is trash, so he's seeking compensation in the form of cash. Bailey thinks he's entitled to some monetary gain because Eminem used his name in vain. Eminem says Bailey used to throw him around, beat him up in the jaw, shoved his face in the ground. Eminem contends that this rap is protected by the rights guaranteed by the First Amendment. Eminem maintains that the story is true and that Bailey beat him black and blue. In the alternative, he states that the story is phony and a reasonable person would think is baloney. The lyrics are stories no one could take as fact. They are an exaggeration of a childish act, and a reasonable person could clearly see that the lyrics could only be hyperbole. It is therefore this court's ultimate position that Eminem is entitled to summary disposition. The judge dismissed the case on the basis of it being cartoonish and that no reasonable person would ever believe that the events were true. Bailey was not entitled to any money from the suit. After 2 years of going back and forth in the court, Eminem was finally free of all lawsuits and could continue to create music that would change hip-hop for years to come. While the Slim Shady LP brought so much good into his life and finally put him out of excruciating poverty, it was also a double-edged sword. The album's success helped him to finally not to worry about his next meal and fulfill his dream of providing a financially stable childhood for Haley. It also made him an easy target for anyone who wanted a piece of his hard-earned fortune. The success not only attracted bullies like DeAngelo Bailey, who continued to harass him even in his later years, but also further destroyed his already broken relationships with the people who should be considered to be closest to him, leaving Eminem lonelier than ever.
I don't know, some people ask me that. I don't think I do. I can't understand how, if my kids would move to the edge of the earth, I'd find them. No doubt in my mind. No money, no nothing. If I had nothing, I'd find my kids. So there's no excuse.